What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Home for Infinite Losers podcast. What's up? Hey, I got a long one today. All right. So today we're gonna focus on Trunks. I'm just gonna do kind of my own character analysis of Trunks. Just go through everything he's been through. But first, how's everybody doing this week? I'm doing just fine myself. Um, I'm in the process of uploading some of the older episodes on to YouTube because I finally found out how to mess around with iMovie. So that's going to be fun. Um, right now, I think I have 4 episodes, and then this one will make 5 on YouTube. So if y'all want to check that out, you can. Also, for my other channel, RCB Games, thanks for everyone who's been supporting that. We just hit 25,000 views for the month, which is something I've never done before. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Me and my wife have been having a lot of fun doing that on our time off. And it's brought us closer together. So that's been cool. So yeah, today I wanted to talk about the man with the sword. One of the coolest characters, I think, in anime. Not my favorite character in Dragon Ball, but definitely top 5. And he's the hero of the future. So, but I'm not just going to be talking about future Trunks. We're going to be covering every version. So that means pretty much all the transformations. I'm not going to get into all the super detailed nuances of everything because that's been beaten to death. This is just my own perspective. So it's going to be a long one. So go ahead and sit down. Or if you want to wait till you take a lunch break, you can do that too. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the origin. All y'all know that Android 17 and 18 were wreaking havoc in the future. And those were weaker versions of Android 17 and 18 because the ones that are in the main story on season 4, they're a lot stronger, obviously because of Cell, than the ones from Trunks' future timeline. So these weaker versions were still strong enough to pretty much wipe out all the Super Saiyan transformations that Vegeta had. And then obviously we saw the battle between Gohan and the androids, and they didn't blow through him, but they really didn't try to beat him. But it's a pretty bleak timeline, and honestly, if Goku wouldn't have died from the virus, they probably would have beat them because Goku always finds a way. But so Trunks starts training with Gohan because Gohan in the future becomes his mentor, and their bond is pretty much big brother, little brother, and it becomes student master. Gohan ends up going to take on Android 17 later on. But I think they did a good job of, in the first movie, of building up the relationship between Trunks and Gohan. So I always thought that was pretty cool. I don't like to take my time with stuff, though, because early Dragon Ball taught me to just stick with the story and everything will be all right. Same thing with One Piece, because I had to get retrained on that shit. So when Gohan eventually goes to take on 17 and 18, it's just pretty much high-speed, close combat. Gohan's really good at misdirecting things, so there's a lot of, like, feints and key blast spam into teleporting somewhere else. So he's definitely taken some things from Piccolo and Vegeta as far as his style of fighting. So he ends up lighting up the sky with key blasts, and Gohan gets overwhelmed because he's fighting both of them. And Trunks tries to go in and help, and Gohan ends up losing his arm in the whole fight. So pretty much that fight shapes Trunks' view of every situation is like, we need to get this shit done now. We need to take these motherfuckers out now because Gohan losing his arm was that first L they took where he saw his master fighting as hard as he could, and they basically just had to survive and save people. After this, some time passes, and Gohan eventually goes into battle again alone this time. And he hides Trunks because he doesn't want him to die. Also, I think the Saiyan in him was like, I need to run this one back. So obviously he doesn't want him to die, but the fight was pretty intense. Gohan used that energy shield, which I thought was a pretty cool nod to use for Piccolo, because I think in one of the games it's called Evil Energy Barrier, Tenkaichi 3. And it's like obviously a Piccolo move. The only thing I hate is that they didn't give him like more of Piccolo's moves. Because obviously he had to train somehow to get to Super Saiyan, and he probably had to do that with Piccolo and Goku. So I think that once Goku died, he ended up just training with Piccolo. That's just my own headcanon. And then just got a little stronger from that. I also think it's interesting that Gohan turned Super Saiyan earlier than he did in the future, because if Trunks wouldn't have come back and, saved Goku, Gohan wouldn't have had another Saiyan to train with. So that begs the question of why Gohan didn't train with Vegeta in the future timeline after his dad died. I don't know if he may have harbored some resentment or whatever, but I definitely think he took some moves from him, because that Ki Blast, his usage of his Ki Blast was pretty spammy. But whenever he got up close to fight, it was more like he was fighting just like Piccolo. So once Gohan's fighting them, he's whooping their ass for a little bit, and then the androids end up Ki Blast spamming him, the first Ki Blast spam kill that I've seen. And then Trunks shows up and sees his dead body, and it's just there. So once he sees Gohan's dead body, he transforms into Super Saiyan for the first time. Could have been animated better, but that's just me being nitpicky. So once he transforms, he gets like that full like cocky attitude that everyone gets when they first turn Super Saiyan. So he already thinks that he's able to beat them. But the fight ended up turning into a horror movie scene, because he was just like running. He tried to fight them at first. Then he ends up running away like 5 or 6 times. And then there's one particular scene where he's in the building and he's like hiding behind a wall, breathing hard. And then one of them's already behind him. And I don't know. That was my favorite part of that fight. But all that to say, they toyed with him and he got demolished. And he was near death. He eventually escapes from them, and Bulma builds a time machine, and Trunks ends up going back to the past to warn everyone. So that leads us to one of the greatest entrances ever, not just in anime, in any media whatsoever. So Frieza returns with metal parts in his body. After Goku defeats him, the planet explodes and his dad rebuilds him. So, in the future, Goku defeated Frieza by showing up on Earth. But this time, Trunks shows up there first. He takes out like 5 or 6 guards. Initially. And then Frieza sends the rest of them out to him, and he just deals with them pretty quickly. I like how when he showed up, he like stood there for a second and Frieza was talking shit to him, and then he sends one of the guards out to like take care of him quickly, and he shoots him, and then Trunks just like fucking deflects it with one hand, and then he like fixes his hair. That was fucking badass. That's my favorite entrance. And then he had a sword. Oh my god, Burning Attack was goated. Burning Attack is cool. I'm not sure what the hand signs are for, but that's definitely his own original attack. I don't remember seeing him ever use Finish Buster, but Finish Buster is a cool video game lore attack. I wish like he would like pull it out every now and then in the anime, just randomly like Finish Buster, and then just like throw it down, kind of like how Vegeta does Big Bang Attack now. So I really would have loved to see Finish Buster or Big Tree Cannon. I don't know where the hell that came from, but Big Tree Cannon would be cool. So Trunks ends up slicing up Frieza to a million pieces and fucking obliterates him. Then Goku comes, and Trunks thinks he's the shit, but then like Goku actually gets there, and Trunks realizes that it's like a different type of Super Saiyan, like it's a different power level. And I think that's when he realized, like, he first started to realize that there's levels even to Super Saiyan, because when he wanted to test out Goku's power, Goku literally just, the sword and versus the finger battle is one of the coolest looking things in Dragon Ball. So I really enjoyed kind of them starting to showcase that at the beginning of the season. Like, okay, we have Super Saiyan. Now we're going to kick it up a notch, and we're going to get into the deeper power levels. So Trunks gives him the antidote so he can save his future, and then he goes back to his future. Also, King Cold tried to beat Trunks after Frieza did. He tried to talk no jutsu Trunks, and Trunks saw through that bullshit and killed him. I just felt like it was worth mentioning, but that fight is kind of ass. That was unnecessary. They should have just had Frieza come back by himself, honestly, because King Cold should have, if they were going to introduce him, he should have had more screen time. So Trunks warns Goku about the threat and leaves, and that sets up the whole Android Cell saga. Trunks doesn't come back until the Z Fighters get done training. And then when he gets there, he notices that they're fighting different androids, so something's already fucked up there. And when he meets up with them, he lets them know, like, hey, these aren't the androids. And then they're like, obviously, like, these motherfuckers are strong as hell. What do you mean they're not the androids? And Trunks is like, they look completely different. And he explains what the androids look like to them. They're like, these are not a young woman and a young man. And so they go, Dr. Gero spills the beans eventually because he's running away. They're all trying to find him. And this is like before Trunks shows up. So when Trunks shows up, they're like, yeah, we're chasing this guy. And they're like, holy shit. So Trunks goes with them to Dr. Gero's lab because there's a whole long thing where they're trying to find it, and Piccolo ends up fighting Android 20, which is Dr. Gero. And then Piccolo fucking demolishes the fuck out of him. And then he runs away. And then but this is actually a really cool part of the series because it's kind of the first time Trunks and Vegeta really interact beyond what had happened before that. And Trunks realizes that even Vegeta is like, he's kind of in awe of his father, but at the same time, they get into so many little arguments and they get into so many little bickering back and forth. I don't know. That was one of my favorite dynamics, especially when they got to the lab and Vegeta was about to blow down the door and Trunks was telling him not to. And he's like, he was basically telling him to shut the fuck up. And he blows down the door anyways. But when Dr. Gero finally lets out the androids, they like kind of intimidate the Z Fighters for a second, but Trunks is the first one to like cut through the bullshit and say, no, we need to take care of them now. And it's funny how he wants to get mad at his father for being emotional and irrational, but yet he's the first one to fire the first shot at the androids and destroy the whole fucking lab. So, father-son right there. They escape. Vegeta goes after them, and he ends up fighting 18. And then for a brief moment, Trunks hops in, but she humiliates them both. Vegeta gets his arm broken, Trunks gets kicked in the rubble, and his sword gets broken. But it's important because it shows his loyalty to Vegeta despite their distant relationship and the power gap between the androids and the Saiyans. So Trunks ends up training with Vegeta, and that's when their relationship actually begins. Because Vegeta pushes Trunks hard, and Trunks tries to bond with Vegeta, but Vegeta's pride won't allow for like too much of a father-son closeness yet. This is when Vegeta gets Super Vegeta and Trunks gets Ultra Super Saiyan, the big buff one. So what happens is when they come out of the time chamber, they end up coming out. Vegeta, like Goku already knows Vegeta's stronger than him at that point. So Vegeta just tells him, there's no need to train. I'm going to take care of this, which we know didn't fucking happen. So both of them beeline it to Cell, and Vegeta and Trunks are just beating on him. One of the more interesting parts of this is it was the first time Vegeta bragged on Trunks, because he was like, I'm Super Vegeta, I'm stronger, which he was. We'll break that down at a different date, but Vegeta was stronger than Trunks at this point in this series. But, he's like, this is my son over there. He's not as strong as me, but he can beat your ass too. So that's the first time Trunks ever got some kind of praise from his dad, at least that we saw. Vegeta kicks Imperfect Cell's ass, and then Second Form Cell is like, well, I'm going to be stronger. We know how that went. But Trunks obviously was like not having any of that. So he beats the hell out of Cell. Vegeta tries to stop him, and then he fucking blasts the hell out of Vegeta. And it was cool that he stood up to his father, because Vegeta was being an idiot. Everyone knew he was being an idiot, but he was the strongest one in the series at that point. So the fact that Trunks stood up to him right then and there was pretty cool. But obviously, Solar Flare took everyone out. And then we get Perfect Cell. He destroys Vegeta. So then we get to Trunks versus Cell. And Trunks is stronger than him physically. He's throwing him around. He's fucking slamming him into the ground and shit. They're both slamming each other into the ground, to be honest with you. But he starts to notice that he's not hitting him. And Cell literally has to explain to him, you're too bulky, you're too strong, and your muscles are slowing you down. Which is basic fucking knowledge, but for some reason, Trunks just didn't get that. Which was why Vegeta didn't go into that form himself. And I think at that same episode, Goku shows Gohan that he can go into that form too, but it's not efficient and it's a waste of energy. So Trunks then realizes that Cell exposed his lack of speed and experience, And Trunks realized that raw power does not equal victory. So we get to the Cell games. Trunks is observing the fight between, the Saiyans and Cell for the most part. So he doesn't do too much. But he fights against Cell Jr. He gets beaten by the Ark's standards. But I mean, like, he didn't really like lose a fight. That was a big clusterfuck. That was another Royal Rumble situation, but that wasn't as good as Ginyu versus Z Fighters. That was kind of stupid. So Gohan ends up saving them. He is on the ground, like he's like just spent and everything after this fight with Cell Juniors. When the next time something happens to him is when Cell comes back, and the first thing he does is kill Trunks while he's like distracted or something. So after he died, Vegeta just breaks, and I was like, oh, he does care. And that actually pushed Vegeta to help save the whole world, because if Vegeta wouldn't have attacked Cell, Gohan wouldn't have gotten that opening. We all know that. So no matter what you say, Gohan needed that little extra help. So after that battle, they revived Trunks and with the Dragon Balls, because Dragon Ball equals get out of jail free card. And that's when, it shows that he ends up going to his own future timeline. So this is when he becomes legendary to me. This is when he becomes the hero of the future. Because when he gets back, the first thing he does is he pulls up on 17 and 18, and he one-shots them both. Like, the part where he goes, this is for Gohan? Oh my God, he annihilated the hell out of them, bro. He had no more hesitation. With the first fight, he was definitely hesitant, inexperienced, but he came back with a year's worth of training with another Saiyan. And I don't think he had his sword with them when he fought them. I think he just straight up just put hands on them. But it was also a good payback. It was pretty cool. And then years later, or months later, sometime later, Cell tried to steal his time machine, because that's how he got to the past in the first place. He stole it from Trunks when Trunks went back to his timeline. So he had to come from another timeline and warn them, or like find out that Cell stole his time machine in the future. I don't know how that happened, but that definitely created the timeline for Goku Black. So Cell tried to ambush him. Trunks vaporized him instantly with the heat wave, which is my favorite Trunks attack. Burning attack is cool, but heat wave is the one, and that completes his Z arc. So I don't think he shows up in Z again unless it's the movies. The movies, he's pretty cool, but he doesn't really do much in the movies. The Broly movie, he was just, fodder. The BoJack movie, his highlight was his fight versus Tien, but he one-shot him as soon as he turned Super Saiyan. And then we get Kid Trunks, but we're about to go into the Buu saga anyways. So now we're in the regular timeline. This is Kid Trunks' first appearance. So his personality is pretty much the opposite of Future Trunks, because he grew up like spoiled, cocky, confident, everything. And he's still a Super Saiyan before Future Trunks. So that's cool too. Because he had his dad to train with. Future Trunks did not have his dad to train with. So that's a whole different type of experience right there than Gohan is. So Kid Trunks goes to the martial arts tournament. think that was the first time his dad, when they were training, was the first time Vegeta found out that he was a Super Saiyan. Because he of course he had to ask if Goku's son could go Super Saiyan 2, and he was like, yeah, and so he had to fix that. So they Trunks versus Goten was awesome. That's probably as far as that season goes, that's one of the top three fights for me. Is Goten versus Trunks, because you get to see the new generation. They didn't go Super Saiyan until Trunks did at the end, but a win's a win. It also foreshadowed what happens between Goku and Vegeta, so I thought that was cool, because Vegeta's son tricked Goku's son and hit him from behind, and then when Vegeta and Goku had their rematch later, Vegeta tricked Goku and hit him from behind. So that was a really good callback for that. This time we got all the Z fighters in the adult tournament, and Goku and Vegeta drew off the back, and that was also a good foreshadowing for Goku and Vegeta having to fight later on. So a lot of people say Dragon Ball doesn't have story, but you got to look at the little things. But when the adults start drawing their places for the tournament, Goten and Trunks obviously want better competition than the kids they had to fight against. So they steal someone's outfit, and they end up entering the tournament. I forgot what the guy's name is, but it's something Mask. But their fight with Android 18 at the finals was badass too. That was a good fight too. It's not one of the top fights of the arc for me, but it's up there. It's definitely better than Vegeta versus Pui Pui. That's a fact. So after that, they are told Android 18 slices them in half with a Destructo disc. Then they hightail it out of there. And then Videl ends up, because she ended up going with Gohan and the other Z fighters to save the world. And then they told her to fly back. So on her way back, she sees Goten and Trunks, and she tells them like they're going to go fight a wizard. And they get super excited, and their hair starts moving and everything. So they beeline it over there. I think when they get there, Vegeta is already there, and he's fighting Boo, and both of them want to help by going Super Saiyan, which he should have let them. That would have been cool. But in the long run, and I guess would have been a bad idea. So Vegeta ends up knocking out Trunks, and he doesn't wake up until after Vegeta's dead. So we get into the fusion saga, and Trunks ends up fusing with Goten after some training with good old Master Piccolo. So as Gotenks, they end up fighting Super Buu, which is a more powered up version of the Buu that Vegeta fought. And they end up using a bunch of like weird attacks in their base form, like a Raging Bull attack where he just charges with his head and stuff like that. Then when they turn into Super Saiyan, you get to see the Super Ghost Kamikaze attack. And the fight still... Oh, and Galactic Donuts, I think. But the fight is still pretty much a comedy segment. And then Boo ends up getting mad because Piccolo destroys the door to the hyperbolic time chamber. So they're trapped in there forever. Super Boo ends up getting so mad that he yells and rips a hole in the in time and space that leads back to the Kami's lookout. After that, Gotenks also powers up just randomly to Super Saiyan 3 after seeing Goku do it. And he also does the same thing. So by the time Gotenks gets to the Kami's lookout, everyone's already dead because as soon as Super Boo got back, he killed everyone in the world. And he killed everyone at the lookout and ate them. I may have that wrong, though. I don't know if he killed everyone in the world before he went into the hyperbolic chamber, time chamber, or after. But I'm pretty sure he actually killed all the humans beforehand because he wanted to wait. Or they wanted him to wait until he killed everyone in the world because someone said that they could just wish them back with the Dragon Balls. And he just stood there, counted them, and shot them all. And I was like, oh, shit. So, yeah, he actually killed all the humans before he went into the time chamber. Then after he came out, he killed everyone at the lookout. So by the time Gotenks gets there, they're all dead. And they just straight up go after Boo. That fight lasts a little while. It's still kind of comedic, but it gets pretty serious. And then they end up defusing. So after that, Gohan comes and saves them. And then they get absorbed. So that's it for Trunks on actually the entirety of Z. Because he doesn't really do anything after that. So this is when we get to Dragon Ball Super. And then this is where future Trunks ends up stepping back into the spotlight. So when we're introduced to future Trunks in Super, he's actually running away from Goku Black, which was also another cool entrance. I don't know why he has blue hair this time, but I didn't mind it too much. A lot of people hated it, but it's going to turn yellow any fucking way. So he's going to look the same as a Super Saiyan. So he deflects a few energy blasts from Goku Black with his sword, and then he ends up escaping to the past. But in the future, it's revealed that him and Mai are kind of a thing because she ends up saving him. So he escapes to the past and he goes back to the same people. Goku, Bulma, Vegeta, that whole crew. But this time it's just kind of different because of everything they went through before. So Trunks needs to train a little more to get back at Goku Black. So he ends up training with Goku. He ends up sparring with him for a little bit. And then Goku goes into Super Saiyan 3, which is something Trunks never saw. And he obliterates him. Because Trunks learned Super Saiyan 2 by killing Deborah in his own timeline. That's the whole reason he's stronger. Because he found out about Majin Buu and he had to take care of him, which I hope they make a movie about that. But he ends up turning into Super Saiyan 2 and defeating them. But after that, Goku obviously shows a power gap and destroys him. There's kids outside. I was wondering who's making that noise. So after this, Trunks, Goku, and Vegeta go back to the future to fight Goku Black and Zamasu. The fight's pretty multi-layered. At first, there's a couple high-speed sword attacks, and then Goku Black actually ends up turning into Super Saiyan Rose for the first time. Then they learn that Zamasu is immortal because he regenerates instantly. So it's basically like infinite stamina versus Goku. They're fighting Goku and somebody that has infinite stamina. So it's a lose situation. Trunks ends up saving a bunch of the civilians because he's focused on trying to save the future. But a lot of things in this arc were pretty cool. We had the father-son Gallic gun, which was really fucking awesome. I don't know if I like it more than the father-son Kamehameha, but I do need to see more iterations of it to make my final decision on that. We got Trunks getting the spirit sword because he ends up saving the entire arc right there. He's the final hero of that arc. He also gets a new transformation, the Super Saiyan Rage. It's like a blue aura mixed with yellow lightning. So it's rivals Super Saiyan 3 apparently. But the Spirit Sword fight is, or the Spirit Sword attack is the main factor of that form, because it takes everybody's energy, and instead of a spirit bomb, it turned it into a sword, and just he really fucks Zamasu up with that. Zamasu ended up fusing with Goku Black because they were getting their ass kicked by Vegito, and they end up beating Vegito. But since they fused, Zamasu was dying, which was pretty smart because I honestly didn't see a way for them out of that with him. So after he beats Zamasu, the ending of the arc gets kind of weird because he like somehow takes, I don't know, he somehow fuses with the universe and takes over the entire like world. Like the entire sky has his face, and so the future's ruined, and then Goku has to go to the Great Zeno, and they could have did that better. If they would have just had the Spirit Bomb Sword defeat him, it would have been fine. But after that, I don't think that you see him again in Super. Some of the other versions of Trunks, there's Trunks in Dragon Ball Superhero, which is Teen Trunks. He doesn't really do much, but they're trying to be the new Great Saiyaman. And there's a manga where they fight bio androids when they're cosplaying as Great Saiyaman. So that one came out recently, and that just follows them and their hijinks before Dragon Ball Superhero happens. And that's from Dr. Hito. He's the doctor that's in Superhero. I think he's in Dragon Ball. Oh yeah, we got Xeno Trunks. That's from the game Dragon Ball Xenoverse. There's Dragon Ball Heroes Trunks. He's actually a popular non-canon hero, but recently they said everything is canon. So Dragon Ball Heroes is canon. But he has a sword too. He fights Mira, Janemba. He's from the games, and he's from the Dragon Ball Heroes anime too. So it's basically the Trunks that can go in between all the timelines. So he fights Mira, Janemba variants. He fights Demigra, and he's in the Dark Demon Realm battles, and he fights Cumber, which is the evil Saiyan, which they need to make canon. So, but those are all over the top multiversal fights and contribute to just him being a popular character. Nobody's going to be mad if you say Trunks is your favorite character. With his relationships, I think with Vegeta, he was just always seeking approval. Kid Trunks wanted a rivalry and his pride, but, Vegeta eventually acknowledges both versions of his son, so he basically has two sons, and those sons have met each other. So it's just kind of what it is with Vegeta at some point, or at that point. I wish that his daughter, Bola, I hope that she, becomes a mini Vegeta and starts calling Goku Kakarot. That would be cool. Bulma is always going to be the anchor for Trunks. She's the smartest person in both timelines. And she's just always his safety blanket. So when she died for him, he felt that shit. That was actually kind of sad when future Bulma eventually died, because, that was Trunks' whole world right there. That was the one he wanted to protect. And it was great that they gave him Mai as someone else to protect, because that kind of hurt me a lot. I like that him and Goten are best friends and brothers in arms. They're also really good rivals, fusion partners. They're their dad's sons. Like Kid Trunks and Goten are exactly like their fathers. It's just that Kid Trunks he's not as prideful as Vegeta. Like he's way more laid back, and I want Bola to be like hard nosed like Vegeta. We've gone over I wrote it down here, but I'm not gonna go back over that. I just do appreciate that he has somebody he can spend his days with. I like that Goku was sort of a mentor to him. He was just an example for Trunks of Saiyan potential. He was never his teacher. He sparred with him a couple times. He was like just a just a good just another good experience Trunks could have out of his, shitty life. So I always liked that Goku was just always lighthearted to him and just goofy for him. So and he even inspires Trunks a few times. Trunks has been there on record saying, man, when Goku gets here, I mean, he came back in time to save Goku. So obviously Goku is important to Trunks, but he's not as important as Bulma or Vegeta. But that's just how that is. But Trunks, he's always been a cool character. He's always represented hope when there's hopelessness. His like ability to survive no matter what is always cool. And then like he also he's royalty. He has royal blood in his veins, so he's always gonna have that burden of legacy with Vegeta. When he's always gonna be the last one left, but he always has courage. So I just always appreciate the fact that he's gonna fight no matter what. And I do like his parallel between Kid Trunks, because they both had completely different upbringings, but they both end up being heroic characters that care about saving people. So that's never gonna leave Trunks. He's a hero forever, and even Kid Trunks, you could say he's the hero of the future as well, because when Goku and Vegeta pass, who's gonna be left? He's always gonna be one of the more popular Dragon Ball characters. He's just a symbol of resilience. And he's always the character who shows us that you can just fight back even if everything is crashing down on you. A lot of times people have bills or debt, and like maybe you're arguing with somebody, or maybe your family hates you. Maybe you're at odds with your family, or maybe you're at odds with your friends, but you can always fight back. And Trunks was just always the ultimate like pinnacle of that. Like people were crashing down on him hard. He was getting his ass kicked. He died a couple times, but he always came back, and he's still there. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about Trunks today. I wanted to do Spider-Man today, but that actually turns out is going to be more of like an hour-long podcast, because just writing down the notes for it has been I'm not even halfway done with it. I thought I was going to knock it out in a couple of hours, but I ended up doing this instead because Dragon Ball is easy for me to talk about. And I do love me some Trunks, and why not? Why wouldn't we want to go through the history of Trunks? Okay, guys, so that'll do it. Thanks for dealing with my ramblings. Next time, we're going to have Mike on, and we're going to talk about World War Hulk. I wanted to do Spider-Man today, but I'm realizing that that's going to be a much longer podcast than I intended it to. So I don't know if I'm going to break it up into two parts, or if I'm just going to do one long hour podcast on it, because it is a really good story. It has its ups and downs, but that Mark IV suit is just so cool. So I at least want to talk about some of it, and if I have to reduce it down to just what the suit does in the last final arcs, then I can do that. But if you guys have any suggestions, you can send them in to me. You can send them to my Instagram at REG, R-E, quadruple G, 92. That's also the YouTube for this podcast. And if you want to check out our gaming channel, that's going to be RCB Games or RCB Gaming on YouTube. Other than that, y'all have yourselves a wonderful week, and I will see y'all next time.